Am I live yet? Hello? They need to have a bell or something that tells you when the person's live. That would be helpful. So, as soon as I can figure out what's going on, I'm going to start this feed. And I'm not quite sure why it's not saying I'm live. Oh, it is! Okay, that just took forever. Alright, so I'm live now. Hi, y'all. Let's see. And it says I'm live here. It says I'm live there. Hi, everybody. So, I am here to tell you that I have reached 10,000 views. Like, that is awesome. I had no idea that that would happen within like 6 months of starting a channel. So that's wicked super cool. And I'm really well aware of all you Kenzie fans who are coming over to my channel and just spewing hate and really making yourselves look stupid. It's okay, keep doing that because you're getting me views and you're helping me move up every time you come over and leave a nasty comment. It gets me a little bit more notoriety, so I have no problem with Kenzie fans or any of you haters out there coming to my site and leaving comments, hiding behind your keyboard and talking about people that you have no knowledge about. It's really cool. It's super cool. And I'm sure your mommies and daddies will be super proud of you. There's nothing better than knowing you're an online bully, but yet in person your ass is writing checks that your mouth can't cash, or your mouth is writing checks that your ass can't cash. So with all that said and done and out of the way, how you me liking my blonde? Ooh, ooh. I redid it again, and this time I don't think it came out as good as last time, but whatever. So, thank you all my Chlo-Riders and all my viewers and everybody out there who got me to 10,000 views in less than 6 months. Like, thank you, mwah, thank you. As many of you know, I hadn't been able to be uploading or posting because I started working for a job that was government-based, and it was a very hard job. I was really great at it. However, as you're going to find out as I go down my year in review with you, I'm no longer working in that job. I had to resign due to medical issues, which I'll get into. So, I'd like to start back at January of 2017. And in January, what stuck out to me were that on January 4th, my daughter, who's estranged from me, she's very abusive to me, and she's a pathological liar. She's got some really serious problems that those around her have been enabling her to breed and grow that into who she is as a person. So rather than these just being characteristic flaws, the people, my adopted parents and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and her therapists and her friends, a lot of them have just bought into the bullshit that she sold, and she's a billionaire now. And I'm definitely okay with saying that if there were a job that my daughter could have where she got paid for every lie she told, she'd be a billionaire. No doubt. It's unfortunate that she can't be honest with herself and that she can't be honest with the situation and that she needs attention on such a horrific level that she can't be part of my life. And there's an incident you'll hear about in July, which was my breaking point. You know, like, I'm a mom and I'm a great mom. I've always been a great mom. I'm not perfect. I was never told as a mom that you had to be perfect. And I never expected my daughter to be perfect. So, to be thrown away like garbage and shunned and everything, you know, this started when she was 14. My adopted parents said, hey, do you know that when you're 15, you can choose in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts who you want to live with? So she did everything she could to end up living with them, and she successfully is living with them. They are not the type of people who are going to work on building her core values, morals, and ethics. Pretty much, if it has to do with money, that's their scene. They're very materialistic. She hasn't had to work for a thing in her life. Her cars are paid for, her heat's paid for, her clothes are paid for, her food is paid for. Anytime she needs anything, it's paid for. Her drugs are paid for. So when we were hanging out last year, she was doing some pretty heavy drugs. She was driving my mom's car on LSD from Plainfield, Ashfield area, which from where she was going was so dangerous. She could have killed so many people and herself. She was driving on cocaine. She was driving on shrooms. And every time I tried to bring this up to the right people, they just didn't care. So I guess it's easier to not care for somebody than to actually take the effort that's needed to care for them and guide them and teach them and raise them to be good people and make good choices. So January 4th was the last time I talked to my daughter. She kept saying crazy things. She'd make plans and not show up. She'd show up to my house and start fights with me. Very strange, psychotic behavior. Several of the boys that she had dated throughout the time either Facebooked me or contacted me in one form or another, which I don't want to get into, and kind of came clean about a lot of the things that Jenica was doing and saying and whatnot. So based on all that, I realized that this is not something that I am obligated to. I am not obligated to be her mother, and I'm not obligated to have to sit here and take her abuse. So January 4th, I parted ways with my daughter. And that wasn't very easy, but I did it. And then her graduation was coming up in June, and she had said that she had wanted me at her graduation when we had been talking up till the January 4th point. And I even texted her a couple times, like in March, to ask her if she still wanted me to come, and she did not say no. April 17th was my 8-year anniversary with my partner who I've been with. And that kind of went over like any other day. May, things started to take a kind of turn for the worse between my partner and I. Alcohol really started to show its everyday effects in our life and made it so that everything we had been working on in the past 8 years was starting to not matter. It was starting to not be honored, and it was starting to be disrespected by both of us. Keith ended up getting arrested in May. I stopped drinking for 7 weeks. So my birthday is in June, and I don't even really remember my birthday this year very much. I remember my daughter's graduation was, I believe, June 4th or June 2nd, one or the other. And I showed up with my camera because a couple other people who were not going to be able to attend wanted the video for their grandparents, who were also not going to be able to attend. So I set my camera up, I got over there, I had been texting my mom all the way up to the point I locked my car, and I asked her if I should get my daughter some flowers, and should I bring the card, which had $200 graduation gift in it, and she said that she would hold off. So I left them in the car. When I got to the graduation ceremony, where there was about 1,000 people, nobody talked to me. My ex-husband and his family called me some nasty names as they walked by me. My adopted parents, I texted them, told them where I were. I was a few rows ahead of them. They, not once during the 25 minutes between when I got set up and the ceremony started, did they come and say hi to me? Did they acknowledge me? Did they include me? They did nothing. They shunned me. When my daughter was walking off the stage for her graduation, her father walked to the side of the graduation stage, which was really strange. The people around me were commenting on how weird it was, which got my attention to the issue. And he gave her hugs and wanted to take pictures, and it wasn't the right time because other people were coming off the stage and they were kind of making the end of the stage congested. But it looked as if my ex-husband was trying to throw something in my face. Or he really doesn't know proper etiquette. Nonetheless, after graduation, I hung around for a little bit, and nobody came and talked to me, so I just got in my car and I left. I went over to the pumping station, took a walk, took some beautiful pictures of myself. And then a couple weeks later was my birthday, June 16th, and I don't remember anything of it. I was heavily drinking, I think on my birthday. I think I started drinking again from the May 8th to my birthday would have been about 7 weeks. And so Keith and I weren't doing good. I was really, really upset with how my family treated me. And my daughter didn't even say anything to me. And if you're going to grow up and try to say you're becoming a better person, then it would be nice if society could see some of that instead of hearing it, because actions speak louder than words. So July 18th was a horrible day. My Blazer broke down in Greenfield, a town away, and I had my very expensive studio camera, which is a $10,000 camera, without its accessories. I wasn't comfortable leaving my camera in the Blazer while I walked home, which would have been about an 8-mile walk from where I broke down. The Greenfield police were going by, and I explained to them the situation. They asked me if there was a place I could, like a family member's house, I could at least leave the camera at. So that way I wasn't being targeted to be robbed or hurt walking across 8 miles with a $10,000 camera in the middle of the night. They gave me a ride up to my parents' house. I then quietly put the camera on the front seat of the car, which is my mom's car, and I texted her and said the camera's on the front seat of the car, and I began walking back down to my Blazer, which was 4 miles away. Now, I got a text, and my mom had said the camera's safe in the house, it's in the closet, we'll deal with it tomorrow. So I put my phone away, and as I had told you, a cop had given me a ride up to my parents' house. So when from behind me I heard a car revving up, I thought it was the cruiser getting ready to go to another call. And the next thing I know, I'm being hit by a car, my mom's car, driven by my daughter. She had left the house with her friends. They piled in the car. They got the camera from my mom, or my mom gave her the camera, and she came up behind me, hit me, turned around, threw my camera out onto the ground, yelled a lot of obscenities, and then took back to my mom's house. I can't explain to you the amount of pain that I was in. It was atrocious. And my phone broke when I got hit. The camera lens cracked, and I couldn't call my friend to come get there sooner. She was supposed to pick me up between me walking from my mom's down to the Blazer, which again was about 4.5 miles away. So I wiped up the blood off my arms and off the side of my shoulder, and I picked up my camera, and I used my lighter to try to find the cap piece that came off and the microphone that came off. I got all the pieces together, and I had no choice. I did not want to sit or stand anywhere near where I had been hit because I was afraid that they might come back and do something worse. My daughter tried to kill me. She tried to hit me and successfully did with my mom's car. Then she threw my personal belongings out the window, and her friends yelled a bunch of obscenities. As I were walking, I was in so much pain. My friend never showed up. Crystal never showed up. I got back down to the Blazer, and I can never forget sitting on the front seat of the Blazer feeling like my hips and my back and my shoulders were like busted, broken. This isn't good. My phone wasn't working from when I got hit. I had no way of contacting anybody, and I'm not a person who likes to leave my belongings out on the street, like my Blazer a town away. So I began walking over to Crystal's house, and lucky for me, as I turned the corner from where my Blazer was parked, Crystal, you could hear her coming. She had her music turned up loud. She was in party mode. She had brought her husband to see if there was anything they could do to jumpstart the Blazer. Vinny was completely annoyed. He acted like I was no friend to Crystal, and Crystal had better things to do than be trying to help me. So Vinny went back to the house. They live very close by. And Crystal's like, just come on, I'll give you a ride home. So we were on our way back to my house, and Crystal and her girlfriend were heavily drinking and doing other drugs, and I was so uncomfortable. I was so traumatized from everything that had already happened that night, and the only ride I could get home was by some people partying who were headed to another party, which I didn't want anything to do with. Luckily, I got back to my house. When I got back into my house, I invited Crystal in. We were going to smoke a bowl of weed. And I felt like after the way Vinny had taught me that I had to try to give her money, anything I could for her to understand that I did value her helping me. And if that took money for her to see my value, then I was going to try. So they left, and as soon as they left, Keith had been drunk, I was traumatized, I was in a horrible place, I lost it. I had a nervous breakdown. I began threatening suicide, I began threatening harming Keith, I began threatening harming my pets, which I had no intention of. I was in just such a mental, I was in such a bad place that I just didn't want to live anymore. And I wasn't going to hurt my pets, and I wasn't going to hurt Keith, but I certainly felt like I could have hurt myself. And I had just had a breast biopsy done earlier that day, and when I got hit by the car, it actually blew the stitches on the underside of my breast out. So Keith calls the police. I lock myself in my bedroom thinking, you know what, this is just bullshit. I'm going to bed for the night. I'll go down to the courthouse in the morning and get a restraining order against my daughter and go to the doctors and start doing what I have to do to protect myself. So next thing I know, the Deerfield police are in my house. They're being very rude. The female Jill, was being very rude, condescending, clearly not professionally trained in situations where citizen has gone through an extreme trauma, like being hit by a car, walking, 12 miles pretty much, and then having to deal with the amount of drinking and drugs from the only ride I could get home, my camera being broken, my breast stitches being blown out. When she came to me, she said that I was resisting arrest. Keith had me arrested. And when they went to arrest me, I was drunk. I was drinking in the car with Crystal on the way home because she said that that would help with all the shit going on and that I needed to chill. So I did a few shots when I was on my way home. When the Deerfield cop, when she pulled my arm, my left arm behind my back, she finished tearing the stitches out of the biopsy that I had done earlier that day. I then tried to move my arm forward to protect and guard the pain that I was in, and that's what she called resisting arrest. And then she also said that I forced myself into a sitting position on the floor to put my shoes on. The funny thing is I didn't have any shoes. She had to walk flip-flops out to me to the car. So the Deerfield police will lie, and they're not properly trained, and they don't ask the right questions, and they certainly don't get citizens the appropriate help. My roommate, Keith, had said to her that she had a medical procedure and that she also takes medication, and that if I were being arrested, I needed to have my medication. Jill from the Deerfield Police Department said that they had a medic at the station and that I would be given all of my pain and anxiety and diabetic medication as needed. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. She lied. I had to go through withdrawal, my diabetic medication. I was very sick from not being able to stay on the regimen. It was a train wreck, and they didn't care at all. So that was July 18th, and then July 19th, I'm in court, and Keith shows up, thinking it's to get me a ride home, or to go over and check out my blazer, and come to find out it was so he could get a restraining order on me for a year that allowed me not to be around my house, not to be around my pets. I could not have any communication or contact with my pets. I couldn't go to his work. I couldn't see him or do anything. I had no money. I had a broken down blazer that I then had to walk across town, which was about 6 miles, after getting out of court in flip-flops with no bra and pajama pants that were split down the crotch and the leg from the treatment of the Deerfield Police Department. And then when I got to the courthouse, they cut the strings out that were keeping them up, so they wouldn't even stay up. It was 100-degree weather. I got back over to my blazer, and I wasn't able to meet with my therapist, but as I get to the blazer, who happens to keep circling around me with their friends but my daughter? Well, before I left the courthouse, I was to the doors, and I got called back up to the courtroom. Why? Because my daughter got a restraining order on me, and she used situations such as, in 2014, I was removed from my mom's house by the Department of Child and Family Services. Well, that isn't correct at all. She ran away from home, and I signed her into DCF care per my attorney's advice in Hadley, Massachusetts on June 22nd, 2014. So she doesn't even understand the truth of that situation. The second event that she used to get a restraining order was, my mom keeps texting me and telling me to come to her house and fight. Well, that's not true either. I have the texts to prove that that's not true. After she hit me with the car on the 18th, I did take my texter when I got it working again, and I texted her some really nasty stuff. Told her that I do not deserve to be abused by her, and that if she wants to continue in the footsteps of her father, we can see how much of a loser he has ended up, and that's not the footsteps or the path that she should be going on. I called her a bitch, and I told her to stay the fuck away from me. That I'm not going to have survived everything I did to have my daughter kill me, mock me, abuse me. So I did say that stuff, and I don't regret saying that stuff. I think I also told her that I wish that she had never been born. And I don't regret saying that either. What has she done for me? What has she offered me? Besides trying to claim I need help all the time and I'm a drunk and I need all this help. Well, when I quit drinking for those 7 weeks, she didn't acknowledge my good work at all. At all. So she is so starved for attention that in order to protect herself, she decided that while I was unable to protect my own rights, she would go down to the courthouse and get a restraining order on me. And the third incident that she used was that when I gave her her Christmas gift last year, at the bottom of it was a list of all the people that she wrote down wouldn't care if she commits suicide. I wouldn't give that to my daughter as a gift. She is confusing a bunch of stuff that she had asked for that was left when she ran away. And it was a bunch of notebooks, papers, drawings, art and craft materials. And I didn't go through it. I just took the box as it was left in her room and boxed it up and happened to give it to her after she opened the $300 necklace that I bought her and didn't give a shit about. She kept saying she had gifts for me and that I blew it and that if I had acted right, I would have got the gifts that she had for Keith and I. You know what? That is something that her dad pulled, and that is something that her grandmother on her dad's side used to always say, oh, I have a room full of gifts for you. If you guys would just come over for Christmas, I have a whole basement full of gifts for you that I've been saving over the years. It was all a lie. And then Jenica tries to say, oh, I had gifts for you, but because of the way you are, I'm not giving them to you. Okay. That doesn't matter, but you not being able to show up for the birthday party I had planned for you that took a lot of money, time, and people's resources to get a surprise party together for you, then you leave me hanging at the dog park at 9 o'clock at night, like I call you at 10:30 because I'm still waiting for you, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Graham won't let me out. Well, then I check with Graham, and she's like, no, I never said that she couldn't go anywhere. The amount of lying that was done to me was so wrong and immoral and despicable and disgraceful that I can't sit here and tell you that my daughter is a good person because she's shown me nothing but the opposite. So I've moved on without her. The restraining order that she's got against me, I'm very grateful for, because that's a two-way street. So when she pulled up at the lights next to me a couple months ago and hollered bitch, I wrote it down, I called the police station, and it is on file. I even have a picture. So my point is that I don't have to love people who don't love me. I don't have to. There's no obligation in life that says you have to love people who abuse and hate you and don't even know why they're doing it and can't articulate a conclusive or consistent or logical reason why they are being the way they are. Period. Period. So, the Blazer broke down in July. I was arrested. Keith put a restraining order on me. My daughter put a restraining order on me. But July 19th was my first day of sobriety. And we are here on, what's today's date? The 15th of November, and I am still sober. Fuck yeah. I did that. Nobody did that for me. And while Keith continued to drink, and we'll get into September, but while Keith continued to drink, I was working on bettering myself. I wasn't doing it for my daughter. I wasn't doing it for Keith. I wasn't doing it for my friends. I was doing it for me. I didn't care how much help Jenica thinks I needed, and how the hell would she know anyway? And usually when you love somebody and you want to get them help, you don't abuse them, because that's counterproductive to the help that you're claiming you're trying to offer. So, dab on the haters. Oh, what's that? Dib-a-dab on the haters. Because a dib-a-dab cancels out a dab from the haters. So, now we're down to, let's see. During that restraining order Keith put on me on the 19th of July, I lived on the streets for 9 days. I was solicited for prostitution by a guy I went to high school with and had kept in contact with off and on because I thought that he was at least a decent person. Nope. He wanted me to videotape him masturbating, and he would help give me some money towards getting a hotel room. Well, a motel room. We only have one hotel around here, and it's like $600 a night. So I was down at the Red Roof Inn, and he kept soliciting me and trying to get me to videotape him masturbating. And I do have the texts. Maybe I'll make another video about that someday and expose. But that's not the point of this video. So, 9 days, no money, a broken down car. My adopted dad, thankfully and gratefully, did come down and get my car jump started. It was so dead, and all the people's cables that had tried to help me before just weren't able to get enough draw. So finally I got jump started, but I couldn't turn my car off. So that sucked. So as I'm getting jump started and everything, my daughter's driving around where I'm stranded after she got a restraining order on me with her friends. Just driving there, looking at me, laughing. And I'm like, bitch, you got a restraining order on me, so why the fuck are you encompassing where I am stranded? Like, do you see how if you really needed a restraining order because you were really scared, you wouldn't be purposely going around the person you needed the restraining order on because you would be scared for your safety? So for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to use, oh, DCF took me out of the house. That was a lie. I signed you over so you wouldn't be sleeping on the 19, 20, 22-year-old boys that you wanted to be hanging out with that I wouldn't let you hang out with. I never asked you to come to my house and fight, ever. It's not even anything part of who I am. If you consider fighting me asking if you're still drugging and driving, that's your own interpretation. But I am your mother, and I have the right to ask tough questions. That doesn't mean it's a fight. And when you were at my house and your boyfriend and I were talking and you got mad jealous and started this huge fight when you had your friends here in my garage, to the point I had to leave my house and call my boyfriend to find out if you were gone yet. Who started what? And why was I the one who left because you were so out of hand? If it were my house and I invited you to my house to fight. So she's not capable of logically producing scenarios that are factual, because when you fabricate a situation, you don't pay attention to the details. You don't pay attention to how stupid your fabricated lies are, because there's such ways to prove via paper trail that you're a liar. But if you have to lie to get where you want in life, that's fine. And I hope you end up where you want in life. But I would never want to live in a life where I had to lie to get where I wanted to go in life. Psh. Fuck that. I'd rather be genuine and true and an open book and honest than to be a pathological liar who manipulates people and is collected by people for their own agenda. So good luck with that, honey. Good luck with that. So while I was in the Red Roof Inn, that guy was soliciting me for the prostitution, and the second night I said no, obviously. Come on. I might not be a supermodel, but I'm a super person, and I value myself, regardless of what anybody's theories or philosophies about me are. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I know what I stand for, and I'm okay with all of that. So the last night that I was there, I stayed 2 nights out of the 9 in the hotel. And the last night I was there, I didn't have enough money. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go stay in my Blazer, which is not safe at all. The doors wouldn't lock. The power things weren't working because the battery was dead. And once I got to the motel and I turned my car off, I had no way of restarting it again. So I was just going to go sleep in my Blazer. And an elderly couple came up behind me in the, like, to register for a room, and they heard that I was like $23 short on getting a room, and angels be looking out above and below and around for me. They offered to pay that $20 so I could have a room for that night. And then the next morning, they brought breakfast to my room for me. And I had a talk with a lady who was like my adopted mom's age, and I kind of told her some of the stuff that were going on. And she told me that adopted parents, biological children, husbands, any person of any relation that's going to treat somebody like that and not be accountable for their contribution are people that I need to steer clear of, and that I need to value myself and realize that these people are willing to discount somebody who's not on sale. And she's right. And I wish I got her name and number, because they really made a difference in my life, between helping me out when nobody else would and keeping me from not having to sleep in a Blazer with no locks. Thank you. If those people ever see this video, thank you. My dear blue sister, Jamie Robert Jackson, was the only person in my life that was helping to bridge communication between Keith and I so I could get him to drop the restraining order and I could return home. I thank you, Jamie, so much for your part in that. As you know, it was horrible. But I thank you so much, because while you were going through a move from state to a different state, you found time to be there for me. You found time to help me. You found time to get me safe and back home with my pets and my medical supplies. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamie. So, let's see. Almost out of July. Keith and I were doing a little bit better after I returned to the house. And on the 22nd of July, or the 21st, we were going to bed. Everything was good that day. And he said, don't forget, tomorrow I'm going down to help my son. I said, oh yeah, that's right. What time do you think you'll be done? He's like, I think around 2, but I don't know. And I'm like, you don't have any idea? And he's like, nope, And he just rolled over and went to bed. Very dismissive, didn't care, which was weird because we were just out here talking for hours before and things were doing good. I was doing laundry. I was cleaning up the house. I was really trying. So the next day he gets up and he goes, and 2 o'clock comes around and I hadn't heard from him, so I tried texting him. He ignored it. I tried calling him. He ignored it. 3 o'clock comes around and I'm like, well, this is weird. I hope he's okay. And because he doesn't drive, I know he's always having to have other people give him rides and drive. So I ended up being able to go on Google Maps, and I put his phone number in, and it showed where he was, which was down at his son's house in Sunderland. So I called again, left a message, nothing. Called again, didn't leave a message, nothing. Finally, I called back again and he answers, and he's all pissed off at me. It's like he was putting a show on for some people. Like, what did you expect for us to be doing? How did you expect for this to be working with the way things have been between us? And it was all just bullshit excuses. It was whatever he needed to say to himself to rationalize his actions. He blew me off the whole day. He ignored my text. He ignored my calls. He ignored my needs. I offered to go down and pick him up, and he told me no. I offered to go down and help get the house together or whatnot, and he said no. Then he flat out told me I wasn't wanted down there. And in the whole time that I have been with my boyfriend, there's never been a time where he is not wanted or welcome wherever I am, or that I have not been wanted or welcome wherever he were. So that was a huge red flag to me. With everything else that had been going on this year, that was just like, no. Excuse me? No. I'm not going to be the only one putting effort into this relationship to have you piss all over the effort that I'm making and not put any in yourself. No. He came home at 11 o'clock that night, had been drinking, and we got in a little bit of a yelling fight. It wasn't till the next morning, which I had a nervous breakdown in the kitchen. If it wasn't nailed down, it hit the floor. I told him I could not do this anymore, that I don't have the resources to put into this relationship, and that the things that he said were going to change haven't, and I patiently have waited 8.5 years, and this isn't working for me. I then began applying for every job I could possibly apply for. After I gotten arrested and realized that nobody was going to help me, not even, like, Crystal wouldn't even let me have a glass of water. She wouldn't even let me sit in her house for like a half hour to get out of the heat, and she lived like a block away from where my blazer broke down. Meanwhile, she's posting pictures on Instagram and Facebook about her and her friend getting drunk and suntanning and hanging out, and I'm thinking to myself, she knew my blazer was broken down right in her backyard pretty much, so why wouldn't she have checked in the next day? And why is she ignoring my texts? And why won't she let me get any water or air conditioning? Like, why won't she help me? So I ended up seeing her a few weeks later at Cumberland Farms on Federal Street, and she walked up to me like nothing had happened. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I would have dropped you off somewhere else that night if I had known that's not where you wanted to go. And I had to explain to her that is where I wanted to go. Keith and I ended up having a very large argument because Jenica hitting me with a car, me having to walk all this way, having to deal with everything in between, plus the stitches and the biopsy and the stress of medical stuff, I fucking lost it. And the next day when I had texted you to ask you to help me, like, can I have some water? Can you bring over some water? Is there any way I could walk over to your house, or you could come pick me up and I could just hang out for an hour in the air conditioning because it was 100 degrees out and I have medical problems which I cannot tolerate the heat. I ended up getting heat stroke. I had to go see my doctor the next morning for severe heat stroke. So it was a mess. So I don't talk to her anymore. Because if you want to be a friend, don't be a party friend. Be a friend that when somebody's really needing help and they're really in a place that they need help, that you're going to help. Don't be those people who on social media or online say, oh, I will help you. God, if you ever needed anything, I'd ride or die, bitch. I'd be there for you. You know how many people told me they would be there for me if I ever needed anything over the years, and I haven't needed anything, and then the one time I need people to help me without me having to ask, or at least when I ask to respond, nobody was there but Jamie. Now, since this incident has happened, I've met a wonderful girl, kindred sister by 100%. We met playing a game. I started playing in September, or maybe August, I guess it was, because I was applying for a bunch of jobs and I was having anxiety. So I decided that I was going to try to find some type of game that I could get in that wasn't complicated, but could help me get out of my head and maybe deal with my anxiety some. So I found a game called Emoj.io, EMOJ.io, and it's basically an evolved version of Pac-Man, competitive multiplayer, and I play it through Steam. If you go to steampowered.com and go in the store and search EMOJ.io, you'll find it, and it's free to play, and it's a lot of fun. I also play Worm.is, WORM.is, but Heather hasn't been on that one so much, and I suck at that game. My highest score, however, in Emoj is 15,000, I think 916, and Heather, also known as Baby Girl, and her husband, Captain Caveman, have slayed my high score. Like, they are extreme players. They are, like, excellent players. Excellent players. And it's kind of funny because when I started playing Emoj while I was doing job applications and stuff, there was always this one girl, and she would always get me. And then I started hunting her down, and I was like, oh, hell no. And eventually, it turned out to be Baby Girl. And I somehow, I don't know if I used my YouTube sign in or if I left an email address or how we ended up connecting through the Chloe Clive Collection, but we did. And it's been the weirdest friendship I've ever experienced in my life. We have, if she were a Gemini, I would think she were my other half. We have everything in common. We like the same stuff. We believe in the same morals and values. And honey, she has helped me through so much shit with Keith alone and medical stuff alone. Since we've met, we instantly bonded. I cannot live without her. I think about her every day, and it looks like there could be some good news I'll get to in a little bit. We're almost into August here. August, I sold my blazer, so I would no longer have the $300 payment over my head every month. Being on a fixed income of $624 and having a $300 car payment, you do the math when you're out on the street and have no money. You want to start doing things in your life and putting yourself in a position where you can take care of yourself, at least for a night, if it comes down to that ever again. So I sold the blazer and I bought my Ford Taurus, which I love. It's got leather seats, mostly power. It's got the sunroof, moonroof, which is a basic requirement. If you're gonna be owned by Chloe, you must have a sun and moonroof. So I'm really happy with it. It's a really nice car. I'm worried about driving it through the winter because I have always drove like SUVs and trucks and things like such through the winter times and whatnot. So we'll see how it goes. And in August, let's see, it was the passing of the death anniversary of my Kea Hody Chapin. Kea is, Kea. My adopted parents murdered 2 of my dogs while I were going through my divorce. Kea was the first one. She was a Rhodesian Ridgeback, maybe pit bull mix, but she didn't have the pit bull jawline, so they always told me she wasn't a pit, even though she looked kind of pit bully. But she was a Rhodesian Ridgeback mix. She had a lot of medical problems and stuff, so she had a lot of medical expenses, and just a wonderful dog. She's my best friend I've ever had in this life. We did everything together when Johnny was gambling and doing everything else that was a priority besides his marriage and his child. I would be there with Kea having a great time in life. Never scared, never felt unsafe with her around, never. And when Jenica was at school, I would take Kay out and we'd be up in Dover, Vermont, in Wilmington, Vermont, and we'd just go over to the lakes and walk around the edges, and we'd go for hikes up through the cemeteries and stuff. We had such a beautiful life together. And then, as I was going through my divorce, I lived with my parents at the time with my daughter while I was saving money to get an apartment for my daughter and myself and my dog. And my adopted father took a bone away from my dog and gave it to his dog, which had torn up several other dogs before. They'd had to pay the vet bills to at least 4 other people. It was a Chinese fighting dog, so it was bred to fight. Well, my dog doesn't fight, wasn't bred to fight, so she has always been around other dogs who are respectful, and she walked over to check the bone out, and my dad's dog launched on my dog. My dog defended itself, tore the cheek of my dad's dog. My dad made me bring my dog out into the backyard, abuse her, lock her up in a pen. My dad said he was going to take her out back and shoot her in the pool yard if I didn't go out and hit her. So I hit my dog twice, and it sucked. It was the worst fucking thing I've ever had to do. I knew if I didn't do it, my dad was going to take his guns and go out back and kill my dog. Then he locked her in the basement in a cage and would not let her out. We had to feed her through the grate, and I remember my daughter and I sitting outside the cage just crying and sobbing, and my mom came down and said, "It's time for Jenica to go to bed," and she went upstairs, and I just stayed down there, and I went upstairs after everybody went to bed, and I had to leave her down there because my dad would have shot her on sight. So I remember being upstairs in my bed with my boyfriend at the time, who stayed overnight that night, and I said to him, "Joey, I need to take Kaya and Jenica, and I need to run away tonight. I don't know how to do it. I don't have money. What do I do? What do I do?" He said, "Your dad will calm down and he will see that this is not the right thing by tomorrow morning." Next morning comes and my mom shuts me upstairs, and I look out the window and my dad's taking Kaya out of the driveway into the van. And Kaya probably thought she was going for a ride. I was told that he was bringing her to the vet, and the vet was going to find a farm or a home that Kaya could live on. So, hours go by, and finally I can hear the van coming up the hill. So I run out downstairs to ask my dad the number of the place that Kaya was going to be at. And when I opened the van door, there she was, dead, in front of my eyes with her tongue hanging out, lifeless. It started to rain really hard. My dad went to go dig a plot, I guess you could say, to put her body in. And this dog was half the size of a Great Dane, and he dug out a hole the size for a Chihuahua and stuffed her in it. I was medically having problems again, but I went out in the rain and I took a shovel and I dug the biggest hole that I could in the rain, and Joey helped my dad bring Kaya's body and put it in the hole I dug. And then my parents used they used the graves, they put ferns and bush and brush on it. They took my best friend from me, and they showed me that they are to be feared, and that they will take what they want from me, and I will have to deal with it. So then they say, the boyfriend I was dating said, "You can't live without a dog." So they gave me this paper that said Vizsla on it. It's a type of dog, and I found one that I could afford. The one they wanted me to get was like $4,200, and I didn't have that money. So I found one for $1,200, ordered it, and my ex-husband, my daughter, and I went down to Bradley International Airport and picked him up. He was so cute. I lived in a teeny little house at this point, and it had a gas heater, and every time Caden would run downstairs, he'd hit the gas heater, and he knocked it off the wall twice to the point we had a gas leak. So my mom said that Caden could live with him, and I would go over every other day and spend time with him. So my parents are talking about getting another Vizsla to keep Caden company, and my dad said that one dog is enough, and that when Caden wasn't there, they would consider it. So my kidneys start to fail, and Caden's about a year and a half old at this point, and Keith comes to pick me up at the hospital, and he pulls over at this little convenience store to tell me that Caden died waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs at my mom's house while I was at the hospital. What had happened, what ended up coming out, was that we brought him to the emergency vet place a couple days before, and they wanted $5,000 to run the tests and treat him, and I didn't have the money, and my parents wouldn't pay. My aunt, who's like got $1 million, and anytime my parents want money, they give it to them, she wouldn't pay. So I was on the floor of the vet's office, howling and sobbing. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. So then Keith pulls over at the convenience store on the way home. And I remember telling him I just want to get home and lay in bed with Caden. And he turned to me and he said, Caden died at the bottom of the stairs looking out the window waiting for you to come home. So what happened was, my parents have an in-ground pool at their house they've had since I was in the 4th grade. And they shocked the pool and they let Caden drink out of the pool. And they knew not to. My mom poisoned my dog so she could get her own Vizsla. So my aunt and my mom both got Vizslas out of the same breed. They're sisters. They're all happy. But then they decide that taking my dogs wasn't enough, and they alienate me from my daughter. Starting at age 13, taking her around against court orders to see people that the court said that she is not to be seeing. And then telling her to lie to me about it. Because you know your mom will get upset. Well, yeah, I'll get upset because the courts don't even want my daughter around these people, and I'm the one who has to enforce that. So yes, I would be upset that you're telling my 13-year-old daughter to lie to me, and you are telling her that that is okay to lie to me and be dishonest. You started that seed in her head, and she ran with it, and now she can't stop lying and be honest about anything that doesn't serve her. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I would have been better off without you, and there's clearly reasons why you guys could not have your own children. God tried to prevent this from happening. But your money overpowered God, and you're able to buy a kid and ruin their life and take the granddaughter as if she were your own kid, and then throw away the daughter that you adopted. Kudos. What kind of parents do you actually think you are? What kind of grandparents do you think you are when you let your granddaughter abuse, manipulate, lie, deceive, and hurt and harm her own mother? And then you lie to back it up because your reputation means everything to you. You wouldn't want people knowing who you guys really are and what you guys have really done, because there would be a lynch mob chasing you everywhere you went in life, because you don't treat people that way. You do not kill animals. You do not take and alienate people from their children. And you certainly don't allow the abuse that you imposed upon me to go on without being accountable or responsible. I did not point a gun at my head and pull the trigger, but my adopted father did and kept the headboard with the bullet in it to this day to prove it. I have gone through so much bullshit from being adopted. I should have just run away. When I were like 10 years old, I should have run the fuck away. So, am I rough around the edges? Am I a unique person? Have I learned to not care what all the haters out there think of me? Yeah. I have enough hate in my life. My own mom and dad didn't want me. They just wanted to use me for their sex toys. So, awesome life I've had. Anyway, so I applied at over 50 jobs from September to when I finally took the job that I did take. I started November 17th, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Kaya's death anniversary was August 12th of 2017. She was murdered on August 12th of 2008. Caden died in April of 2011, I think. And his birthday was August 25th of 2017. So then we're into September. Oh, the place I bought my blazer from screwed up and ended up taking an extra payment out of my bank, which screwed all my banking up at the beginning of the month. Caused some overdraft fees because that $300 had been allotted towards something else. They weren't supposed to take it, so they ended up fixing that. But when you pay for a car in full, in cash, early, you expect everything to be all the I's dotted and T's crossed. I passed my 21-year wedding anniversary, if I had still been married, on 9/6/17, which was a horrible day in my life. On 9/6/17, Keith went and left work early. I had court the next day, but Keith left work early with his co-workers and his co-worker's brother and found themselves drunk or drugged and drunk or completely out of their fucking mind on substances at a few of the local bars, talking about having myself and another co-worker's wife set up to be gang raped and murdered, and to have one of the other co-workers take the fall by using DNA off the hemorrhoid cream that the other guy leaves in the bathroom. Have it all on audio. All of it. I happened to get a thing from Samsung while I was out at the store getting soda that's like, oh, your handset is within 2 miles. So I clicked the button and it gave me a map. I followed the map. I parked outside where it was, which was a bar. And I tried calling him. It didn't work. And then the Samsung Find Your Phone program said activate. So I activated it and I didn't know it was actually recording. So I go and I listen to the recording. And it's my boyfriend, Keith, talking about being at the bar to find other women, having myself and Melissa LaBelle gang raped and murdered, and how he hates being sober, and that he's miserable, and that he just wants to live in the woods in Conway after Peter LaBelle and Billy LaBelle drive him around fucking women in the back of their car. So you can imagine. The next day I had court. Keith showed up hungover, left early. I ended up having to get a restraining order on Keith because of that situation. He was in the front yard yelling that he was going to kill me. And I have audio recording of him saying that he, at that time, was very much into having me gang raped and murdered. Scary shit. I also, in September, won my court case against Bob Aubert Construction. I rented a house from him, and the landlord ripped us off our security deposit and last month's rent. So that was $5,000 plus that I got back. So that was good. And then on the 9th of September was our local fair, and I ended up going to see this awesome event called the Marvelous Mutts. Google them if they ever come to your area and you love high energy, fun, pet related activities. Check them out. It was awesome. So on the 25th of September, Brutus had a seizure. I was laying in bed and the bed started shaking. I thought he was going to puke on the bed, so I nudged him off, and when he hit the floor, he was in a full seizure that lasted almost 11 minutes. We ended up calling a vet, which wasn't available, and then I called another vet, which was very close to where we live, and thankfully they got him in 2 hours later. Ran a bunch of tests. Dr. Steve Ellis at the Sunderland Animal Care Hospital, fantastic. And Dr. Bentley over at the Sunderland Animal Care Hospital, phenomenal. They are our vets now, and it feels good because our last vet died of cancer several years ago, and life just got away from us. We didn't really think about it that much, and now that the dog's sick, we also found out that our Brutus has Lyme disease, and had to have some antibiotics for 30 days. And then Mia, let's see, that's September, October. Not much really went on in October. Lots of applying for jobs, lots of downtime, trying to figure out how Keith is going to change his life, how I'm going to change my life. We did end up separating on October 22nd, or 11/22nd, no, October 22nd, and still living together because I can't live without my pets. And I also was working a very great job. I selected a very good job, and I started working that job on 11/17, and unfortunately I have lost that job since then. I resigned because there's some kind of medical situation going on right now which is leaving me in debilitating pain. It's affecting my ability to function. I need to see specialists. I saw 4 providers in 48 hours, and all they can tell me is something is definitely wrong. We're not specialized enough. So Friday this week I'm going to a specialist in Boston, and Monday next week I'm going to a specialist in Lebanon, New Hampshire. On the 10th of November, I ended up getting off probation. I did so good that I'm off probation now. I'm allowed to drink again, but I'm going to say that my sobriety is priceless to me, and the problems it caused were not worth at all my attention. With all this medical uncertainty going on, it's been really difficult trying to figure out what I can and can't do without losing my Social Security or my health benefits. The health benefits that were offered to me at that job were $145 a week for their basic Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then you added in dental and vision, and I would pretty much be working 4 weeks for 2 weeks of paycheck after taxes, FICA, health insurance, blah, 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 blah. So that wasn't possible. And then, unfortunately, in my 3rd week of work, I passed out at work after throwing up a bunch. I passed out at my desk. I was found by a coworker with papers all over my face on the floor. When I woke up, I was hysterical. I left work, went to the emergency room, and it's been all downhill since then. I spoke with my employer about my needs, and because I don't know what all of this means and what the proper resolution is going to be, I didn't feel confident staying in a position that they weren't going to hold my position if I couldn't do it within their time frame. So now I'm back not working. I noticed today I hit 10,000 views on my YouTube when I haven't had any content in weeks because I haven't had time medically or otherwise. So I'm going to end this on a great note. Keith and I have been working pretty hard on ourselves, and granted he's still working around those people, those co-workers. He's working on that. He's working on getting into therapy. He's got his health insurance situated. And here's the big news, guys. We are planning on getting engaged after 8.5 years. And I'm excited to share this with you. I'm sure there's going to be more videos about this as we go along. Nobody is perfect. I need you all to remember that nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. Keith isn't perfect. You're not perfect. We all have our flaws. I am imperfectly perfect, if that makes sense. I put so much time and effort into my relationship with Keith that I don't see it being logical for me to not give him a chance to prove himself and to prove that he can give me the relationship that I've been deserving and that has been overdue for too long. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope this helped you understand what my year was like. Share the exciting news about the 10,000 views. Expect more content. I think from this point forward, I'm going to try to be doing 1 video a week, and I think I'm going to try to do it midweek or the weekend. I'm still playing with trying to figure out what works best for me, but I will surely let you know what I decide when I do decide it. So, bye y'all. Much love. Thank you for all those views. Thank you for my 90 subscribers. I'm so proud to have the presence that I do here and all the very nice comments and messages and people finding me on Facebook or YouTube or in a game and being like, hey, I know you. It's awesome. So everybody go out there. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm going down to my kindred aunt's house. Keith and I are going to go down there for Thanksgiving, which is fun. I've never celebrated the holidays, so this is going to be my first year of celebrating the holidays, and excited. I'm wanted, I'm invited, I am being offered to be part of a celebration, and I'm excited for that. So I gotta go because my bestie is probably playing Emoji without me. Anyway, bye y'all.